Day 4 of Trailgating has officially begun. It is Thursday. I don't know the date, sometime in late August. We are broadcasting from the heart of Chamonix, France. My name is Dylan Bowman, and we are joined by two of our top finishers in today's OCC. Immediately to my right here, the great Italian athlete, Mr. Francesco Puppi. Francesco, second place today. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I've had better moments for sure, but I'm incredibly happy and proud of my performance. But yeah, my body's hurting as it's supposed to be, and I'm really, really tired. 2
podiums in a row for you. Tiredness well earned, and just next to Francesco, of course, the great Dani Moreno, a previous podium finisher here today, taking home 6th place. Dani, how are you feeling this evening?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm content with it, but I'm also proud that I feel like I played more off of grit today than anything. I didn't give up, and just I sent it down La Flagere like a mad woman and got a couple crowns, which I'm pretty proud of.
Yes, okay. I can't wait to hear about it. Couple bits of housekeeping before we get to it. So again, today is going to be the OCC recap show. And we had this planned before you guys had great performances today. So I really appreciate you coming in after such awesome races. You guys are going to act as our experts. So we're going to first do race reports from each of you, hear about your personal days, and then we're going to bang through the top 10 men and women and ask you guys to add your perspective as professional athletes on the racing dynamic, the ultimate results, who some of the breakout athletes were. So that's what we're going to do today. Again, tomorrow we're off. It's CCC and UTMB days, so we're going to be out and about on the course, and then we'll be back in studio on Saturday with the instant recap show from UTMB and CCC, and then we'll wind things up on Sunday with sort of the final full week recap. Before we get to it, go play fantasy for CCC and UTMB. Not to brag, but I finished 7th place in fantasy today for OCC. So anyway, I'm looking to improve on my performance in CCC tomorrow. So if you want to battle against your boy Debo, like Francesco and Eli battled on the course today in fantasy, you can do that at fantasy.freetrail.com. Have a chance to win some great swag from Freetrail and a full head-to-toe kit from our partners at HOKA. Big thank you to HOKA for all their support here during race week. Launching into it, maybe let's start with you, Francesco. When I saw you at Col de Balme, you looked freaking amazing. You were in 6th place at that point, but you said, I got off course. So maybe talk us through the early part of the race, where you got off course and how it impacted you.
Yeah. I mean, you maybe thought that I was looking great, but I was burning inside. And I took a wrong turn on the climb up to Col de Balme, which cost me about 2.5 minutes. So not a huge deal, but it could have been a difference between a podium performance and, maybe a 4th place or 5th place, since these races are so close now. But yeah, I mean, I thought that the trail would continue to climb, and instead it was like going on a little downhill, and I went off trail. I was in 4th place at that point, and I ended up in 8th place. So I think my confidence had a hit for a few minutes, and I just had to, repivot my strategy and refocus on what I was doing. So it was like a hard handful of minutes. But then I just, got my head down and tried to set my pace, and I was determined to catch the guys that I was seeing in front of me. And I think it was a really cool section. When you saw me almost at the top of Col de Balme, there were tons of people, and I was really catching up with the front of the race. And I was waving the crowd, and definitely a good memory from our race today.
So it's funny because right before you came up Col de Balme and saw me, Antonio, who ultimately finished 3rd, Antonio Martinez Perez, who finished 3rd for the 2nd time. I think he's a 3-time podium finisher here.
Yeah, the last 3 years.
The last 3 years. So we'll get to him in a little bit. But when he came up, he said, what position am I in? And we said, you're in 3rd place. He said, where's Puppi? We said, we haven't seen him. So then when you came up, I was like, oh, now it makes perfect sense. He passed you when you were a little bit off trail. How do you reframe psychologically in that moment? Because it seemed like you had composure, like you weren't panicked.
I wasn't panicked. I don't know. Like for a moment, I just thought maybe this is not my day. This is how it's meant to be. But then you just, learn to do and to get through whatever the day throws at you. I think it's one of the lessons that I get from trail running. Things will never go perfectly. You always have to navigate the ups and downs of training and racing. And you maybe have a strategy in mind, but I think one of the strengths of good athletes is to still keep the focus even if the race is not going the way that you hoped for. Which means that sometimes you're not in the position you were planning, that you imagined before the race, and you just have to keep pushing because things can always change. And looking back, I'm really proud of how I handled the delicate situation today.
So then walk us through moving back through the field all the way up into second place. When did you ultimately pass your good friend and fellow multi-time podium finisher, Antonio?
Oh, yeah. Just very close to the top of the last climb to La Flagère. I think just a handful of meters from the top.
Yeah, because we got word that you guys were together at La Flagère. Yeah. We weren't watching the live stream, but the splits made that seem.
Yeah, I think there is a clip where I tapped on the shoulder of Antonio to just encourage him because he's a good friend. And then I started the downhill, and the funny thing is that I was hearing someone running behind me, and I thought that was Antonio, and it was only like halfway through the downhill that I realized it was the camera runner. And like I was so tired and so focused on what I was doing that I didn't even realize that I had dropped Antonio. So kind of funny.
So what was the emotional feeling to even like after, and we should say you finished 2 minutes, 58 seconds behind Eli. He had 9 minutes at Argentière. So you made up a lot of ground in the second half. I have some good stats, so we'll share here in a second, but you mentioned that you were off course for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So, it's tough to do the counterfactual, hypothetical things, but either way, you guys would have been having a battle into the streets of Chamonix. But I don't know, how does it feel to you to be able to bounce back from that sort of like drama mid-race and bring home your second podium position here?
Yeah, I mean, Eli totally deserved the win today for how he ran and how brave it was. I knew that I could make up some ground on the last section from Argentière to the finish. But honestly, I didn't think I would get so close to Eli. I was just focused on, first of all, dropping Aritz, we were battling third and fourth in Argentière, and was just behind me. And yeah, I was pretty confident that I could run a good uphill because last year is where I made a difference in the race, and I was looking to replicate that this year. But yeah, I mean, it obviously felt great to come into town and wave the crowd and just cross the streets of Chamonix and finish. I was totally destroyed. I don't think I have had the time to really process the emotions because they're so raw and so I'm so tired. And you need some energy for that, which I don't have right now.
Well, I heard that you didn't just have a good uphill. You had a mind-blowing uphill. Like, I think you made up, from what I've heard, like 7 minutes.
Yes. Okay. So
on Eli. So
let me take us to Fireball Corner here. So a big thank you to Liam Tryon, our stat number crunching phenom, who always comes up with great analysis of these races. Let me find it
I think
here.
last year I had a better climb, but the conditions weren't as hot. And today it turned out to be a brutal race because of how hot it was. Like,
Right.
Personally, I
But
really,
that is such
really
a crux
suffered.
moment of the course.
Yeah.
And to be the guy who's the strongest on the crux moment of the course, that's how you run your way all the way up into second place.
Yeah.
Right? All right. So let me take us to Fireball Corner here. Again, a big thank you to Aid Station Fireball. Check him out on Twitter. What he says is, Francesco Puppi put 7 minutes into Eli Hemming's lead in the climb up from Argentière to La Flagère, splitting the climb in 38:17, the 4th fastest in course history and his 2nd consecutive year with the fastest split up the La Flagère climb.
Yeah, I think
Money.
last year I had the best. I set the course
38
record on that
minutes on
climb.
that climb is stupid.
I felt like I was moving so slow. You know, you always feel like shit at the end of the race, but you just have to keep moving. I mean, and apparently I was moving pretty decently. So, yeah, just another reminder to, not to look too much around you and just focus on what you got to do.
All right. So, Danny, talk about the course quickly before we talk about your race, just to set some context, because what just popped into my head is like, I want to know, how Eli's climb up to Col de Balme stacks up against previous years, but they've only used that section of the course a couple of times, so there's not a lot of historical precedent. And I'm sure our audience would love to know how Francesco's time, how Eli's time, how Mao Yao's time sort of like stack up against history. Can you just inform us a little bit about that as somebody who's been here so many times?
Yeah, so many times.
Well, what
Not
you've
that
done?
many.
You've done 4 OCCs. You've started three.
Yeah, but I dropped out last year. Yeah. But thank you. So this course has only ever been run in 2022. So you literally can only look at that year as far as how times compare. And what's interesting about this course is this is definitely the longest course of all the OCC variations. So when it seems like 2022 and this year are significantly longer in time because they used to do a different route to Vallorcine and drop down there. And so you have to take a lot into consideration. And 2022 and this year were both very warm. So even last year, Tony McCann's winning time was 5:18. What did Eli run today?
Yeah, I ran 5:14, so it was comparable
so it's like
to
comparable.
Tony's time.
Yeah,
but yeah,
which
with
is wild.
probably 4 kilometers less.
The only thing this year, which I haven't had time to look into it, is that our downhill coming off of Col de Balme, we took a different turn and they took us up higher into Latour. Yeah. So I think it might have added just a little bit of time just based off a gut feeling, but I'd have to compare it because the downhill was actually quite smooth. It was just very, very, very steep. And for some reason it was a gauntlet where they were taking us. Yeah.
So is it still TBD how we assess the course records, for example, at this point?
Well, yeah. I mean, it kind of sucks.
I wish they would stop changing this stuff around. I mean,
I know. It's so
for the sake
good
of historians and people who love to think of things with continuity over years and years and years, just keep the same freaking course, please.
I know. Yeah, the downhill was actually a surprise. I don't think that was in the original GPX, so that was a surprise to all of us today. Huh. So I would compare it most to 2022. So I think Manuel Marias won that year in 5:18, and then Shayla won it in 6:10. So I haven't looked at the guys' times. I know they were faster, but the top 8 women were under 6:10 today.
Wow, awesome. So fast no matter what, and in tough, warm conditions.
Very warm, yeah. I think this is warmer.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was sweating out there, running 10 meters at a time, trying to encourage you guys. Danny, I saw you at the top of La Balme too. You were in 8th place at that point. Yeah. So maybe just talk us through the first part of your race. You said that you were content. It wasn't great, wasn't terrible. What were you thinking about going into it? Where was your psychology at? What was your strategy, and how did it map against reality in the early miles?
Yeah, I think the first part of the race was good. I think we were pretty much I was in the lead, but I say that in quotes. We were all together, they were right behind me. And so going through Champay, I think our splits were very similar to the women last year. So nothing super hot, but I personally just didn't want it to be a weird sit and kick like they had at Mont Blanc Marathon earlier this year. And then it just started moving and grooving from Champay up through Bovine. Yao Yao made almost the exact same move she made last year, which was kind of interesting for all of us in the moment. I think it's like, well,
bold,
what's going to happen? Yeah, it's going to get hot and stuff.
So Judith, early too.
Very early, especially when you're thinking about being out there for 6 hours. And then Judith and Tabor were right there. And then it was like me, Caitlin Fielder, a couple other women that I've heard of, but I haven't like raced too often. But yeah, it was just wild out there. Like this was a very engaging women's 56K. Like I was like moving between 5th and 10th all day, just constant pushes and surges. And like when women would pass me or I would pass them, like it was very aggressive. And yeah, the psyche going in, like immediately I had a lot of pressure. I put my own pressure on myself not finishing last year. I would like to have, like the goal was to win or podium this year, but I knew it would take my best day today. And as athletes, we know like how tough it is to get the best day on the right day.
If you're honest, it happens a handful of times in your career.
Exactly.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, I ended up 6th. Glad I gritted it out to the end. I didn't give up. It was getting really hard from Argentière on, but I could still see some women ahead of me, and I ended up passing 2 and getting passed by 1.
Wow, there was that many exchanges.
Yeah, I mean, this is just going off of my team manager, but when I entered the Flagère climb, 3rd was at the top. So 3 through, I was 8th at that. Well, it was Clementi, Sarah, Caitlin, me, and then another woman. So there was 5 women on that climb at the same time last year. I'm pretty sure Tony was all alone last year at that point. So yeah, it was a very, very competitive race. And like, it's one of those things I say I'm content because I want to win. I want to be on the podium and stuff, but like, you know, proud to be the top American again today, like I was a couple years ago. Tabor had an incredible race. I'm so excited for her future. Like super bummed. Like her back wasn't like working.
She was just in here with Eli.
Yeah, I would have loved to have seen how the rest of the race would have played out, like if I ended up closing on her or whatnot. But she was just running phenomenally. And yeah, it's like one of those things, you run the race again next weekend and it could have been a completely different order. It's just, it's like the Olympics, you know?
Yeah, amazing. So I'm going to read something here that you just brought up that I think is relevant, and then I'd love for you to comment on it. And Francesco, feel free also. This is, again, we're taking it to Fireball Corner here. And what Liam says is this year's OCC women's race was arguably the most competitive edition in race history, with the women's top 10 only separated by 19 minutes and 54 seconds. Over the past 4 races, the 1st through 10th time gap has been whittled down from 49 minutes to 33 minutes to 27 minutes to 19 minutes and change, like it was this year. Speaks to kind of what we're discussing here of just like the consolidated density at the front of the pack, where you have to be on the gas pedal, where any mismanagement in your race execution, people are going to be on top of you. You compete at the highest level. You know all these characters in the field. Maybe add your personal color to supplement Liam's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these women, like, we see each other throughout the year, you know, Golden Trail, UTMB, whatever. But just like sending messages personally to these women leading up to the race, we're all like, fudge, like this is going to be hard. But talking to a couple of them, they're like, maybe I should do another race. And we all were like, no, let's really see how we stack up against each other. And I think we were all inspired by each other, honestly. And nothing but like we're fighting against each other, but we're also very supportive. I like rolled my ankle. Caitlin came by me and being like, shake it off, shake it off. And, you know, Sarah being like, come. And it's like constant encouragement, which I love about the trail running community. But I mean, anyone who's in the 50K women's space knew lining up today, you are going to get like a judgment day, but we want that. Yeah. You know, we want to fight against the best. And like, there's a lot of races I could go win. And, you know, I say that humbly and respectively, but like, I want to see where I'm at in the world and like really test myself.
And this is where you do it.
Yeah, I think as elites, you know, our job is to provide a show for the public, and the show happens when the races are competitive. And yeah, I mean, there is a ton of reasons why people race, but as elites, we have to go where the races are the most competitive, because that's where the real value stands.
Yep.
According to me.
And you can only do it, you know, really once a year. And to be top American is a massive achievement that you should be very, very proud of. Thanks. So moving from 8th to 6th, like in that final climb, I think just the audience would love to know more about the dynamic, right? Because we can gather some of it on the live stream, but being in it is obviously a very different thing. So just like, if you could speak about the psychology of like, you know, really fighting for those positions. And I mean, do you even know where you're sitting in the field at that point? Anything you want to add?
A lot of times I think you don't know. Like I didn't know I was 4th until Argentière, and then I had contrasting information on the gap on Eli and Antonio. So you don't really understand what's going on if you don't see the person in front of you. So that's why you have to base your strategy a lot on yourself without much looking at what others are doing.
Yeah, it's definitely, especially when you could see the people, it's deceiving, right? Because it's like a mountain. It's not a road. But at least my philosophy is like, it's not over till it's over. And I personally can get really reckless on like downhills if we're finishing on a downhill. And I mean, I hate to say it, sometimes people fall, sometimes they cramp. Like, you could still bonk. Like, we are sending it.
Eli fell apart on that last climb.
Yeah, it's wild. And that, with it being so close, I mean, I think from 4th, 5th, and 6th, we were separated by like 90 seconds or something like that. And that means they're literally like 2 switchbacks down. Is crazy. So yeah, you just kind of lean into it and grit it out. And like, I cuss a lot at myself. And yeah, I ended up 6th, you know? Yeah.
4th, 5th, and 6th separated by 1 minute and 45 seconds.
Yeah, that's, I mean, considering being out there for 6
Sarah
hours.
Alonso, Caitlin Fielder, and then you was 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah, which I've raced them a lot.
So I want to transition and talk about the top 10 and have you guys provide your expert commentary on it. We are pressed for time, so we got to go in 15 minutes so you guys can get to your award ceremony. And again, thank you so much. Before we transition, just to build off what Liam said, and just for our viewers to know this too, it says, for comparison, the men's race had the top 10 separated by 19 minutes and 16 seconds, the 4th tightest spread of finishers in race history. So the spread between 1st and 10th in the men's race and the women's race was 19 minutes and change. Just an interesting overlap there. Okay, so let's go through the women's top 10. Maybe I'll just list the top 10, and then maybe we can go through some of the individual performances. First place, Mao Yao from China. So she now has 2 of the 3 world final victories here as a CCC champion, I think in 2018. Takes home the win, 5:54.03. Second place, Judith Weider from Switzerland, 6 hours flat and 5 seconds. Clementine Jeffrey had a great second half, it seems, finishing 6:02.10 in 3rd place. Then Sarah Alonso in 4th, 6:05.15. Then Caitlin Fielder in 5th, 6:05.46. The great Dani Moreno in 6th, 6:06.59. Then Camila Magliano, Italian, 6:07 in 7th. In 8th was Ikram Rarsala, somebody I've never heard of, Spanish athlete, 6:10. And 9th was Rosa Laura. Oh, this was the person that, okay, we'll get your commentary there. Another Spanish athlete, 6:13. And in 10th was Anastina Eriklina from Finland, 6:13.57. So again, only 19 minutes separating all 10. Let's start with Mao Yao. And while we talk about her, Tony, can you play that clip that we got of her from Col de Balme? Tony, talk about Mao Yao's performance here today and like remind people what happened last year and any thoughts that you have, seeing her win here today.
I mean, mega congrats. She got the win. She made a move in almost the nearly same exact spot in a hotter year. I will say, like, last year she had a phenomenal Sierre-Zinal, came and ran. This year wasn't able to get to Sierre-Zinal, started pulling, got stopped. So she was fresh, which makes her deadly. But she's just fast as heck, and she can do everything. She can climb, she could descend. So I was honestly really impressed that she ended up making the move where she did. And I heard that Judith might have been closing on her at some point, and then she ended up surging and stuff. And that her strategy today was like whenever she hit something runnable, she just blasted it. But yeah, I mean, she was someone on my radar and everyone's radar as someone that could win. And yeah, I'm glad she finally got the win. So she is amongst some incredible company, Blondine and
Xavier Thevenard.
Xavier and
Jonathan Albin.
And Jonathan Albin.
Croft.
And
who?
Ruth Croft.
Ruth Croft.
And Ruth
also.
Croft, yeah, who have 2 out of the 3 crowns. Might change by the end of this week, but that's incredible company to be around.
Absolutely. Ruth Croft and Blandine going for the trifecta. We've been talking about that all week. Anything you want to add on Mao Yao?
Yeah, very inspired by her versatility and the fact that she's also a great road marathoner. Yeah, it's good to see, an Asian at the top for the diversity of our sport, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is she the first Chinese athlete to win OCC? I would probably say so.
She must. And
I think so.
China showed up today. We'll talk about that here in a second. But 4 Chinese, I think there was 3 Chinese men in the top 10 plus Mao Yao. So 4 Chinese athletes in the top 10s. So let's talk about Judith real quick too. And Tony's got a clip that we can play of her. Judith is such a consistent athlete. You have a lot of experience racing against her. Talk about her a little bit.
Yeah, I've actually raced Judith twice. Today was my 3rd time. We just have kind of missed each other here and there. But
you guys went 1, 2, wait.
At Mammoth Trail Fest.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, Judith is one of the people I looked up to coming into the sport. I still look up to Judith. I think she's 37. Yeah, she's just super badass, mom of 2. Yeah. She can do everything. And to me, I always think of her as like, for Americans, like the Jenny Simpson of the 1500. Like each year the competition gets better and she's still up there.
Wow.
And like, I just really am inspired by her consistency. And I did hear there was something weird that happened at Triant where she got stopped and Mao Yao didn't. I don't know if it would have made a difference in the end, like asking for her tracker. So I think that was a little frustrating for her.
That happened to Eli too.
Yeah, it was just they stopped weird. I don't know what's going on there, but like for her to come, this is her debut OCC, which is crazy to think about. Like that's how long she's been doing the shorter stuff. But yeah, just like huge kudos to Judith, and I think she inspires everyone in our sport.
Yeah, huge inspiration.
Yeah. We obviously we're pressed for time. So any other comments on the women's field? Like, like Clementine moved up through the day. She passed at least a couple people to land on the podium. She's, world championship last year, European championship, now another podium at OCC. Don't know much about her personally, but wow, what a run she's been on. Yeah, she's kind of new on everyone's radar. I'll kind of just do some quick hits, but she ran a strategy today that I actually didn't think was going to work with the field. I thought the field would be too far and not uncatchable, and she proved me wrong. So I thought that was really cool. She just like flew by everyone on the technical part to Col de Bomb. Really cool to see her get a 3rd again, just like someone to always consider. And then just some more quick hits. Sarah Alonso's debut at this distance, 4th place. She ran an incredible race. I'm not surprised. She's a Mont Blanc marathon champion, shows up always ready. And then, Caitlin Fielder in 5th for New Zealand, just like
again, just very consistent. I think this was her 4th, and she's never finished lower than 6th place, but she's gotten the podium once.
Super, super consistent. It seemed like she moved up too. I was trying to look on.
We were going back and forth all day. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the men, and we've only got 10 minutes, so we'll bang through this quickly. Tony, pull up the clip of Eli coming over Col de Balme. Obviously, we should just recognize Eli. We just recorded a champions interview from him. I've got a clip of Francesco we'll share here in a second too. Francesco, he's the only guy who got the better of you here today. I'm sure the audience would love to hear you say a couple words about the champ while Tony plays the clip.
Right on.
I got to talk to Eli.
Right on, man. Still nobody,
a couple
Eli.
of hours while we were waiting for
Hell
the
yeah,
anti-doping.
dude. Right on, Eli.
For ourselves.
Let's go, dude.
Crushing, dude.
Yeah, I'm also inspired by Eli, and I actually remember really well the podcast that you recorded maybe a year ago or some more time ago. I think it ran a really brave race, and it was just stronger today. I mean, it faded a little bit in the last part, but it had such a big margin up until Argentière that it became impossible for me to catch him. I didn't really want to follow him on the first section of the race until, until 2/3 of the race, because I knew that the race would turn out to be really, really tough. And I think the last couple of hours made a lot of victims. Lots of people faded, had cramps. We were constantly dehydrated. Like I was constantly thirsty, which increased the challenge. Also because in OCC you have to manage all the refreshments by yourself, and there's not a ton of places where you can get water or any other type of drinks.
And you're not allowed crew is what you mean, just so everybody knows. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm super impressed by his race, and he totally deserved the win today.
Yeah. What he said today, which you guys might find interesting, is that on that Col de Balme climb, so they passed Christian, he and Remy together, and then he felt himself pulling away from Remy. He was like, I've never been able to do this to Remy on a climb. And he just gasped.
Yeah.
And he said he got over the top and he was like, oops, that was a little too hard. And then he paid for it. Francesco nearly caught him. Speaking of which, Tony's going to play a great clip that we got of Francesco also. And this is, if we had the sound on, this is where you'd be able to hear you saying, what position am I in? I just got off the horse. And I'm like, let me count here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we don't have it?
Not yet.
Bummer. All right.
He probably looked amazing.
Well, we can pull it up. So
yeah, we'll pull it out later.
So of course we heard about your race. You were in second. Antonio Martinez, we talked about, just so steady and consistent. One person I just wanted to give a big shout out to is Zizhu Wei, who finished in 4th place. And when he came into town here, I was like, whoa, that guy moved up, because I had seen him on Col de Balme. And Chinese athlete, again, he finished 4th. He was 25th at La Giette, 22nd in Trient. Okay, here's the clip of Francesco.
Cool.
So smooth.
While we watch Francesco dominate Col de Balme.
You're running so fast.
Yeah, see, that's when if you could hear me talking, this is where I'm saying, Francesco, dude, you're looking as good or better than anybody.
Have this clip.
And you could see 3 guys right in front of him too. So it was clear to me that you were going to be finishing much higher than your current place, which was 6th at this place when we saw you. But back to Zizhu Wei while we continue to admire Francesco's uphill running form. So Zizhu Wei was 25th at La Giette, 22nd at Trient, 11th at Col de Balme, 4th in Chamonix.
Again, it's just these people that moved up so much. It's really cool to see, because it shows it's still possible. But I literally thought both fields, I'm like, once they're gone, they're gone. Like everyone knows what they're doing, but heat and a lot can happen over 56K.
Yeah, but I think on a day like this, the condition allowed for this to happen, because pretty much on any other day, I think
like last year, no one came back.
It would have been impossible to make up 16 places,
right,
or 18 places.
Is he sponsored by anybody?
Solomon, China.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so again, we got to start moving quickly here. 5th place was Aritza J. It sounds like you guys had a battle together. 6th was Christian Jones, who also looked great at Col de Balme, somebody I don't know, a British athlete.
Yeah, he comes from a road and track background. He has like a 10 kpr in the 28 range. But he's had some really good results at World Champs and some other races. So yeah, for sure a guy that I was looking at as one of the potential top 10 placers.
Cool. So I'll just tick through 7 through 10. You guys can have any closing comments and then we'll let you go. 7th place was Daniel Castillo, 5:28.48. 8th place was Luo Tao, who I remember racing this before.
Yeah, it was in the top 10 last year.
Yeah,
as well.
okay. So he, again, second top 10, and our second Chinese athlete in the field, 5:30.23. Just behind him, another Chinese athlete, Zhao Hu, who finished only 23 seconds behind fellow countrymen. And then rounding out the top 10, Robbie Simpson, ever consistent, 5 hours, 31 minutes. In 4 seconds. Again, 19 minutes and change separating 1st through 10th. Any closing comments on the men's race, the race in general, your guys' own performance that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, I just want to give a little shout out to Remy Bonnet because he always raced fearlessly. I think right now he's my main inspiration in the sport just for how he trains and race, and is for sure incredibly talented, but also really, really brave. And he was my favorite for today's race, and I'm really sorry that he had to drop out. But I'm sure he'll come back stronger, and yeah, he would have deserved more today. But that also shows that, you know, he can fail, and it's part of his growth. Even, you know, what we call champions sometimes fail, but at the end of the day, we only remember the good days. So, yeah, just hoping for him for a quick recovery.
I'm glad you said that. And so maybe while we're on the subject, before we get to Danny's closing thoughts, notable drops include Remy Bonnet, who fell. So when we saw him at Le Balme, his leg was all bloody. He's like, I don't know, man. Tabor Hemming also, Daniela Omis dropped out. Anybody else that you can recall?
Those were the most ones that I've noticed, yeah.
So shout out to them. Disappointing. You know, everybody wants to perform well. You had that experience last year, Danny. I'm sure they'll all be back to fight another day. Danny, closing comments for you?
It's just, again, we all know it. It's an exciting time to be part of the sport, and I appreciated the people who have been giving the 50K more love. Like, those of us in this space, it's nice to feel equal and to know our race is as competitive, if not more, than some of the other races. And it's just like, it's just a distance that really allows people from other sports to come in, and it's just getting faster and faster. Again, top 8 women would have won 2 years ago.
That's insane.
Like, it's just why I wouldn't have even been in the top 10 with my podium finish. But yeah, it's just a really excited time to be part of the sport. Congrats to China. I guess we only had 2 Americans. Congrats to Eli for being the first American to podium.
Thank you.
The women's OCC is the last unknown for Americans to win. And then, yeah, last shout out just to Tabor Hemming. Like, her debut at OCC, I know it didn't go how she wanted in the end, but to be leading a race like this in, you know, the infancy of her career, I think we have a lot of really great things to look forward from her. So.
That's what I said to her. I was like, I'm sure you're disappointed, but you should be confident about that because she was in it.
Yeah, she put herself out there, and it's, I mean, you're amongst world champions, Golden Trail World Series champions, the Gama winner, like the best of the best. So, yeah, I'm really excited for her.
That's a really interesting stat, too, for our audience to follow in the years to come. So what Danny just said is the women's victory at OCC is the final that an American has not achieved a victory. So sometimes we talk about American stuff.
Sorry,
here.
Poopy.
So
I think I'm more into the American scene than the European one.
American men and women have won UTMB,
CCC,
and now an American male has won OCC. So Maybe next year, Dani Moreno will be back knocking on the door.
I'm tempted by Western States. We'll see where my heart is.
Woo.
Yeah.
Sub-Hub goes ultra.
Yeah.
We'll save that for a future podcast. Well, congratulations to you both, Francesco Puppi,
Thank
Dani
you.
Moreno, a second place and a sixth place today, respectively, and adding a lot of great insight.
We're
for
pushing
our
the sport
audience.
forward, so it feels great.
In conclusion, make sure you subscribe to the channel, please, everybody. It would really help us out here. Smash that subscribe button. Thanks to the guys behind the scenes, Mr. Ryan Thrower and Tony DePasquale, working super hard all day. We were out on the course, clipping bangers, as they say. Tomorrow we are off again, so we will not have a show. We will be out on the race courses, so follow us on Instagram for some race coverage. It's been an amazing start to UTMB week. CCC and UTMB around the corner. All gas, no brakes for the next 48 hours or so. What an honor it is to be here. What an honor it is to share the studio with these great champions. For Dani Moreno, Francesco Puppi, I'm Debo. We'll see you on Saturday. Peace out.
Peace out. Love you all.